What is stagflation and why is it so dangerous? Well, stagflation basically combines 2.5 very insidious economic events into a monster. Inflation and economic stagnation, hence the name. I'll explain the last 0.5 here in a second, but first, here's the very dangerous problem. Stagflation puts the Fed between a rock and a hard place. Let me explain. How does the Fed fight inflation? By raising interest rates, right? But how does the Fed fight economic stagnation? The Fed fights this by lowering interest rates, right? High interest rates lower inflation, but they slow down the economy. Low interest rates boost the economy, but they speed up inflation. So you see why this is so dangerous? You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Basically, the economy is a car hanging off a cliff. The US population is the person trapped behind the car, and the Fed is the person trying to save it all. The problem is if the Fed lets go, the car and the US economy fall off a cliff. But if the Fed saves the car and the economy by pulling it off the ledge, it runs over the US population trapped behind the car. Like I said, damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I haven't even gotten to the final 2.5 thing that makes this even worse. Unemployment. The final spell to create this economic monster. You see, during economic stagnation, and definitely during a recession, unemployment rises, which is bad. But the saving grace is that during a recession, there usually isn't inflation because businesses cut prices because there is less demand. So people don't have to deal with losing their jobs and rising prices. On the flip side, inflation is bad, but during times of inflation, there usually isn't high unemployment because inflation usually means economic growth. So people don't have to deal with rising prices and losing their job. Basically, most of the time, people are either dealing with rising prices or high unemployment, but not both. Stagflation is both. And on top of all of that, the pill to eliminate one causes the other. And the pill to eliminate the other causes the former one. Again, damned if you do, damned if you don't. That is why stagflation is so dangerous, and it is the economic monster that usually stays in hiding. But people are starting to get worried that there are signs that this monster is coming out of hiding. Why? Well, because the Fed is currently in a predicament, and they're kind of damned if they do and damned if they don't. And it was highlighted last month with the banking crisis. Let's start from the beginning. 2020 happened, and the Fed printed a ton of money to keep food on the table and businesses afloat. And that did keep businesses alive, and it did keep food on people's tables. But it also created a major problem: superinflation, at least by US standards. 6, 7, 8% inflation per year. So what has the Fed done? They started raising interest rates, and inflation has come down, but not nearly to the 2% target rate that everyone wants. And in the meantime, while this was happening, the banks went out and bought a ton of federally backed bonds. And we know when interest rates rise, bond prices fall. So the banks, which whether you like them or hate them are vital to the economy, these banks are sitting on a ton of unrealized losses. And this is what puts the Fed in a tricky situation. They either, one, continue to raise interest rates to fight inflation and maybe collapse the entire banking system and the economy in the process, or two, they stop raising interest rates and inflation continues to hurt everyone. The point is, in either situation, you know who's getting f***ed? The good old, average, everyday working American. Like always. So this unfortunate situation breeds the question, stagflation. Is it on its way? You see, stagflation has only happened twice in US economic history, both times in the 1970s. So is it about to happen for a third time? Well, of course, predictions are all over the place. Some economists say yes, some economists say no, and both sides has their evidence to back up their position. But what we need to remember is that the answer always lies somewhere in the middle. So the most likely outcome? Yes. We will experience stagflation, but no, it won't be as severe or as long-lasting. And that begs the question, what should you do in order to prepare yourself for this very likely situation? Well, you can find that answer in the problems. Unemployment and inflation are those problems. So first and foremost, unemployment. If you are pretty secure in your current job, you might want to consider keeping that job. Now, that might seem obvious, but what I mean is that if you are considering a new position or a new job, job or moving to a new company, you need to really ask yourself, is that tenure at that new job, new position, or new company as secure as your current one? I mean, right now, you really need to think about this before making the switch. Do you have as many connections at the new job? Is your job as secure as your current job? Remember, job security is a very real thing. And when you change jobs or companies, that job security might not follow you. And of course, right now, especially, try not to get fired. Now, the second problem with stagflation is inflation. So it might be smart to start keeping some of your money in places that counter inflation. Gold and silver are the obvious ones that most people know about. And there is some good news for these. Gold and silver both tend to do very well in this specific economic scenario. But I also have a video on where to keep your money safe during a banking crisis, and there is a lot of overlap between that and where to keep your money during inflationary periods. So I will link that video in the description below. I truly hope this video was informative, and if it was, you can let me know by hitting the like button. It would mean the world to me and the channel. I also hope this video helped you become more knowledgeable, so when you start hearing more and more about stagflation, which unfortunately you most likely will, you will be ready. Again, my name is Derek, and I got my degree in finance. You don't have to. If you like videos about money, personal finance, entrepreneurship, business, and the economy, I think you'd love the channel and the direction we are going. I've been an entrepreneur for over a decade, and I love sharing this stuff with other people. So I would love it if you subscribed and followed along on the journey of financial education and financial freedom. Till the next one.